A kind gesture. On a sunny afternoon, David walked down the busy street near his office. The sun shone brightly, and people hurried past him, laughing and chatting. But David's mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about the office party that would take place that evening. It was a chance for his coworkers to relax and enjoy themselves. As he strolled along, David noticed a woman sitting on the sidewalk. She looked tired and sad. Her clothes were old and worn, and she held a small cardboard sign that read, "Please help." David's heart sank. He had seen many people like her before, but today something felt different. David approached the woman slowly. She looked up at him with tired eyes. "Hello," he said softly. "What's your name?" "Linda," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. David felt a wave of compassion wash over him. "Hi, Linda. My name is David. Are you hungry?" Linda nodded, her eyes widening slightly. David reached into his pocket and pulled out a few dollars. "Here, you can buy something to eat," he said, handing her the money. Linda took it with shaky hands, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she said. "This means a lot to me." David smiled. "You're welcome. I wish I could do more." He paused, thinking about the party later. An idea popped into his mind. "Would you like to come to my office party tonight? It's just down the street, and everyone is welcome." Linda looked surprised. "Me? At a party?" "Of course," David insisted. "Everyone deserves kindness, no matter what. It'll be fun." Linda hesitated, looking down at her worn clothes. "I don't know if I belong there," she said softly. "You belong anywhere you want to be," David replied firmly. "Come as you are. I promise it will be okay." After a moment, Linda nodded slowly. "All right, I'll try." "Great. It starts at 6 p.m. Just come to the entrance and ask for me," David said with a big smile. As David walked away, he felt a sense of happiness. He had made a small difference in Linda's life, and it felt good. He hoped she would show up at the party. When David arrived at work later, he shared his plan with his coworkers. "I met a homeless woman named Linda, and I invited her to the party tonight," he said. His coworkers looked surprised. Some were supportive, while others frowned. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" one coworker asked. "Why not? Everyone deserves kindness," David replied, standing his ground. As the clock ticked closer to 6 p.m., the office filled with laughter and chatter. David kept glancing at the door, wondering if Linda would come. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. What would his coworkers think? When the clock struck 6, the party began. David greeted guests with a smile, trying to keep his spirits high. He noticed a few people eyeing the door, whispering among themselves. Time passed, and just as David was beginning to lose hope, he saw her. Linda stood at the entrance, looking uncertain. She wore the same clothes as before, but her face showed determination. "Linda," David called out, waving her over. The room went silent as everyone turned to look at her. Linda hesitated, taking a deep breath before stepping inside. David approached her with a warm smile. "You made it. I'm so glad to see you." "Thanks for inviting me," Linda said, her voice shaking slightly. David introduced her to the other guests, trying to make her feel comfortable. "Everyone, this is Linda. She's a friend," he said, hoping his words would ease the tension. Some guests welcomed her with friendly smiles, while others whispered quietly among themselves. David noticed the change in atmosphere. He felt a sense of protectiveness over Linda. As the party continued, David took Linda to the food table. He wanted her to enjoy the evening. "What do you like to eat?" he asked. "I haven't eaten much lately," Linda admitted. "Then let's try everything," David replied with enthusiasm. He filled a plate with food and handed it to her. "Here, this is for you." Linda looked at the food, surprised by the amount. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. Enjoy yourself," David said. Linda smiled for the first time, and it warmed David's heart. He watched as she took her first bite, her eyes lighting up. As the night went on, more guests started to mingle with Linda. David noticed a few people were still unsure about her presence, but he kept encouraging everyone to be kind. Just when David thought everything was going well, a woman in an expensive dress approached Linda. Her expression was not friendly. "What are you doing here?" the woman asked sharply. Linda looked down, clearly uncomfortable. David felt a surge of anger rise within him. "She's a guest, just like everyone else," he replied defensively. The woman scoffed. "This is a party for important people." David stepped forward, standing beside Linda. "Everyone deserves respect, no matter who they are," he said firmly. The atmosphere grew tense as more guests turned to watch the confrontation. David's heart raced, and he could feel the weight of the room's attention. Linda looked from David to the woman, her eyes wide. David hoped she wouldn't feel embarrassed or ashamed. "Just leave her alone," David said, his voice steady. "She is here because I invited her, and I stand by that." With that, the conversation hung in the air, and everyone felt the heaviness of the moment. David took a deep breath, hoping Linda would feel supported. As the party continued, David knew one thing for sure. He would always stand up for those who needed it. He glanced at Linda, who was slowly relaxing. A smile crept across her face, and he felt proud to be her friend. The night was just beginning, and David knew it would be a memorable one for both him and Linda. The unexpected revelation. The party was in full swing, laughter and music filling the air. David watched as Linda began to relax, talking to a few guests who had welcomed her warmly. He felt a sense of relief that she was starting to feel at home. But as he mingled with the crowd, he couldn't shake the feeling of tension from the earlier confrontation. David moved through the room, making sure to introduce Linda to more people. He wanted her to feel included, to know that she mattered. "Have you met Linda yet?" he would say, smiling as he pointed her out. Most people responded positively, but some still glanced at her with suspicion. As the evening progressed, Linda opened up a little more. She shared stories about her life before things became difficult. "I used to work in a restaurant," she said, her voice gaining strength. "I loved cooking and being around people, but then I lost my job, and everything changed." David listened intently. "I can't believe how tough that must have been," he replied sincerely. "But you're here now, and that takes courage." Linda smiled, a sparkle in her eye. "Thank you. I've missed being around kind people." Just then, the door swung open, and a tall man in a sharp suit entered the room. David recognized him immediately. It was Mr. Thompson, the CEO of the company. David felt a wave of anxiety wash over him. He wondered how Mr. Thompson would react to seeing Linda. The CEO scanned the room, his eyes landing on David and Linda. "David," he called out, walking over with an air of authority. "Good to see you." "Mr. Thompson, I'm glad you could make it," David replied, trying to sound casual. As they spoke, David noticed Linda standing quietly beside him, her hands nervously fidgeting with her plate. "And who is this?" Mr. Thompson asked, glancing at Linda. "This is Linda." David introduced her, trying to keep his voice steady. "She's a friend I met today. I invited her to the party." Mr. Thompson raised an eyebrow. "Interesting choice," he said, his tone a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Linda looked down, her confidence wavering. David felt a protective instinct surge within him. "She's a wonderful person," he said quickly. "She has a lot to offer." "Of course," Mr. Thompson replied, still studying Linda closely. "You never know who you might meet at these events." He turned his attention back to David. "I hope you've been working on those reports I asked for." As Mr. Thompson walked away, David turned to Linda. "Don't let him get to you. You're doing great," he reassured her. Linda managed a small smile, but still looked uneasy. The party continued, and David made sure to keep Linda engaged. They danced, laughed, and enjoyed the food together. Just when things seemed to be going well, the woman from earlier approached again, this time with a friend. "David, is it?" she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "I see you're still hanging out with your friend." David felt irritation bubble up again. "Yes, and she's doing just fine," he replied. The woman laughed mockingly. "What kind of a friend brings a homeless person to a party? Isn't that a little odd?" Linda stiffened at the comment, her face flushing with embarrassment. David stepped closer to Linda, shielding her from the judgment. "Linda is a person, just like you and me. She deserves respect." Before the woman could respond, David noticed Mr. Thompson watching from a distance. He was clearly aware of the situation. David felt a knot in his stomach. Would Mr. Thompson intervene or let this continue? To his surprise, Mr. Thompson approached them. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his voice firm. The woman rolled her eyes. "I just don't think it's appropriate." "It's not up to you to decide who is appropriate or not," Mr. Thompson interrupted, his eyes narrowing. "Everyone deserves a chance, no matter their circumstances." David felt a surge of gratitude toward Mr. Thompson. "Thank you," he said, relieved. The woman huffed and walked away, her friend following close behind. Linda looked up at David, her eyes wide. "I can't believe he said that," she whispered. "People can surprise you," David replied with a smile. "You deserve to be here." As the evening wore on, David felt a shift in the atmosphere. More guests began to approach Linda, wanting to hear her story. David felt proud of her for opening up. Then Mr. Thompson called for everyone's attention. "I'd like to take a moment to recognize someone special," he said, his voice booming through the room. "We have a guest tonight who has shown incredible courage." David's heart raced. Was he talking about Linda? The crowd grew silent, their eyes turning to Linda. "Linda, please come forward," Mr. Thompson continued. "We want to acknowledge your bravery in coming here tonight." Linda looked shocked, her face turning red. "Me?" she stammered. "Yes, you," Mr. Thompson said, smiling. "Please, join me up here." With hesitant steps, Linda walked to the front of the room. David's heart swelled with pride. He could see her confidence growing with every step. As Linda stood next to Mr. Thompson, he spoke further. "Everyone, let's give Linda a round of applause for her bravery." The room erupted in applause, and Linda beamed, a mix of disbelief and joy on her face. David clapped loudly, cheering for her. Linda looked back at him, her eyes shining with happiness. At that moment, she knew she was not alone. As the applause faded, Linda spoke into the microphone, her voice shaky but determined. "Thank you all for welcoming me. I've faced many challenges, but tonight has reminded me that kindness is everywhere." The crowd listened, captivated by her words. David felt tears welling up in his eyes. He was proud of Linda for sharing her story. "Together, we can change lives," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "Thank you, David, for your kindness. It means more than you know." The room erupted in applause again, and David felt a warmth in his chest. This was only the beginning of Linda's journey. As the party continued, David knew that he had made the right choice by inviting her. He watched as Linda began to connect with more people, each moment building her confidence. With every smile and laugh shared, David felt hope. He had seen the power of kindness transform lives, and tonight, he knew, was just the start. The turn of events. The party buzzed with excitement as guests mingled, but for David, the atmosphere had shifted. He felt a mix of pride and concern for Linda. She was a shining star in the room, but he also sensed the whispers and curious glances directed her way. He wanted her to feel safe and accepted, especially after such a bold moment of sharing her story. After the applause faded, Linda returned to David, her face flushed with happiness. "I can't believe they applauded for me," she said, her eyes sparkling. "This is incredible." "I knew you could do it," David replied, smiling. "You have a powerful story to tell. People need to hear it." As the night progressed, more people approached Linda, asking questions about her life and experiences. Each time she spoke, Her confidence seemed to grow. She shared anecdotes about her past, her love for cooking, and her dreams of starting her own catering business one day. "Do you really want to start a catering business?" David asked, genuinely curious. "Yes, I've always loved cooking for others," Linda said, her voice filled with passion. "I just need a little support to get started." David nodded, brainstorming ways he could help. "Maybe I can connect you with some people who could give you advice or even help you find a location," he suggested. "Really? That would be amazing," Linda replied, her smile brighter than ever. Just then, Mr. Thompson approached them again. "I was impressed by your speech, Linda," he said, offering her a warm smile. "If you ever need assistance or mentorship, my door is always open." Linda's eyes widened in disbelief. "Thank you so much. That means a lot to me," she said, clearly touched by his generosity. After a moment of chatting, Mr. Thompson excused himself to talk to other guests, leaving David and Linda alone again. "Did you see that?" Linda exclaimed. "The CEO wants to help me." David chuckled, happy to see her excitement. "You deserve all the opportunities that come your way." However, the mood shifted once more when the woman who had previously mocked Linda returned, flanked by a few of her friends. "I didn't realize this party was a charity event," she sneered, looking directly at Linda. David's protective instincts flared up again. "Why don't you just leave her alone?" he interjected, trying to shield Linda from the negativity. The woman smirked. "What? I'm just pointing out the obvious. Isn't it funny how some people think they belong?" Before David could respond, Linda stepped forward. "You don't know me, and you certainly don't know my story," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the tension. "I'm here just like everyone else, and I have just as much right to be here." David watched in admiration as Linda stood her ground. The woman's expression shifted from mockery to surprise. "Whatever," she muttered, turning away with her friends in tow. Linda sighed, visibly shaken but trying to maintain her composure. "Thank you for standing up for me," she said quietly. "Always," David replied, giving her a reassuring smile. "You've shown more strength tonight than many people do in a lifetime." As the night wore on, Linda continued to connect with more guests, sharing her dreams and aspirations. David felt a sense of pride swelling within him, seeing how far she had come since arriving at the party. It was heartwarming to witness her transformation from a nervous guest to a confident woman with a voice that commanded attention. Eventually, David excused himself to grab drinks for them both. As he walked through the crowd, he overheard snippets of conversations about Linda. "Did you hear her story?" one woman said. "Incredible." "Yeah, she really changed the atmosphere of the party," another replied. David couldn't help but smile. It seemed Linda was not just gaining confidence, she was also winning the hearts of everyone around her. When he returned with the drinks, Linda was engaged in a deep conversation with another guest, a woman in her late 30s. David watched as Linda animatedly shared her vision for a catering business, and the woman seemed genuinely interested. After a few minutes, Linda turned to David, her face glowing. "This is Emily. She's a food blogger, and she loves my ideas." "Wow, that's fantastic," David said, genuinely excited for her. Emily smiled. "I'd love to feature you on my blog. Your story is inspiring, and I think people would really connect with you." Linda's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "Really? That would be amazing." David felt a wave of happiness wash over him. The opportunities were pouring in for Linda, and she was finally receiving the recognition she deserved. As the night began to wind down, guests started to say their goodbyes. David felt a mix of sadness and fulfillment. He was proud of Linda for shining so brightly, but he also didn't want the night to end. "Let's get some fresh air," David suggested, guiding Linda outside. The cool night breeze felt refreshing, and they both took a moment to breathe deeply, letting the night's excitement settle. "Tonight was life-changing for me," Linda said, her voice filled with emotion. "I can't believe how many people want to support me." You deserve it, Linda. You've shown everyone your true self. David replied, leaning against the railing. You have a bright future ahead. Linda looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. I don't think I would have had the courage to speak up without you, David. You believed in me. Of course, he replied, touched by her words. You just needed someone to see your potential. You have a lot to give, and I'm excited to see where this takes you. As they stood together, the stars twinkling above, David felt a sense of hope. They had both taken a step towards a new beginning, one filled with possibilities and dreams waiting to unfold. Linda's journey was just beginning, and David was determined to help her every step of the way. The first step forward. The following week, Linda felt a mix of excitement and nerves. She had received several messages from people she met at the party, all wanting to help her. It was overwhelming, but in the best way possible. Her dreams of starting a catering business were beginning to feel real. David had been her biggest supporter. He encouraged her to reach out to the food blogger, Emily, and set up a meeting. Together, they planned to discuss her ideas and how Emily could feature her story on her blog. Linda was nervous, but David assured her, "You've got this. Just be yourself." As Linda prepared for the meeting, she made notes about her ideas. She wanted to create a menu that highlighted comfort food, inspired by her childhood memories. Cooking was not just about food for her. It was about bringing people together and sharing love through meals. On the day of the meeting, Linda dressed in her best outfit, a simple but elegant dress. She took a deep breath as she looked in the mirror. "You can do this," she whispered to herself. When she arrived at the cafe where they agreed to meet, she saw Emily sitting at a table, scrolling through her phone. Linda's heart raced as she approached. "Hi, Emily." "Hi, Linda. I'm so glad you could make it," Emily replied, smiling warmly. "I can't wait to hear more about your ideas." They sat down, and Linda's nerves began to ease as they talked. She shared her vision of creating a catering service that focused on comfort food. Emily listened intently, nodding and taking notes. Linda felt more confident with each word she spoke. "I think your ideas are fantastic," Emily said. "People are always looking for meals that remind them of home. This could really resonate with many families." Linda beamed with pride. "Thank you. I want to create a menu that tells a story. Each dish will have a meaning behind it." Emily leaned in, intrigued. "I'd love to help you with that. How about we start with a tasting event? You can showcase some of your dishes, and I can invite a few friends from the food industry to sample them." Linda's heart raced with excitement. "Really? That sounds amazing. I can start cooking right away." Over the next few weeks, Linda poured her heart into creating her menu. She experimented with recipes, combining flavors that brought back memories of family dinners and celebrations. David helped her taste test each dish, offering feedback and encouragement. "This is delicious, Linda. You've got to keep this one," he exclaimed after trying her creamy macaroni and cheese. "Thanks. It's my grandmother's recipe," Linda said, a hint of nostalgia in her voice. "I want to honor her by sharing these dishes with others." As the tasting event approached, Linda felt both excited and nervous. She wanted everything to be perfect. On the day of the event, she carefully packed her dishes, ensuring each one was presented beautifully. David arrived early to help her set up. "You're going to do great, Linda. Just remember, these people are here to support you," he said, noticing her anxiety. "I know, but what if they don't like my food?" Linda admitted, biting her lip. "Then you'll keep trying until you find the right audience. This is just the first step," David reassured her. When guests began to arrive, Linda greeted them with a warm smile, her heart pounding. Emily introduced her to each person, explaining her story and the significance behind her dishes. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as the guests began to sample Linda's creations. As they tasted each dish, the reactions were overwhelmingly positive. "This is incredible. I can taste the love in this macaroni," one guest said, prompting Linda to blush with pride. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" another asked, genuinely curious. "From my family. Cooking has always been a way for us to connect," Linda replied, her passion shining through. With each compliment, Linda felt her confidence soar. She realized that she had a gift for bringing people together through food. As the evening continued, Linda noticed a small group of people chatting animatedly about her dishes. "Looks like you've got some fans," David said, standing beside her with a proud grin. Linda glanced over at the group, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I can't believe this is happening. I'm so thankful for your support, David." Just then, Emily approached with a broad smile. "Linda, I think we need to talk about the next steps for your catering business." This was a huge success. Linda's eyes widened. "Really? What do you mean?" "I'd like to help you set up a website and promote your services. We can feature your story on my blog, and I think you'll gain a lot of interest from potential clients," Emily explained, her enthusiasm contagious. Linda felt a rush of emotions. That would be incredible. "I can't believe this is happening." As the night drew to a close, Linda couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment. She had taken a giant leap toward her dreams, and with the support of David and Emily, she felt ready to tackle whatever challenges lay ahead. As they packed up the leftovers, David said, "Tonight was just the beginning, Linda. You have the talent and heart to succeed." Linda smiled, her heart full. "Thank you for believing in me. I couldn't have done this without you." Together, they headed home, their minds buzzing with possibilities for the future. Linda was finally on her way to achieving her dream, and she knew that with each step, she was creating a path not just for herself, but for others who shared her journey, facing challenges. In the weeks following the tasting event, Linda's life became a whirlwind of excitement and activity. Thanks to Emily's promotion on her blog, inquiries about catering services began to flood in. Linda felt both thrilled and overwhelmed. Her dream was coming true, but it also meant she had to confront many challenges. With David's continued support, she began to plan her first official catering job. It was for a local community event celebrating diversity, and they expected a large turnout. Linda was determined to impress everyone with her food. One evening, Linda sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by notes and recipes. "David, I want to make sure every dish is perfect. I'm thinking about offering a variety of options, something for everyone," she said, her brow furrowed in concentration. "That's a great idea. But you need to remember not to overwhelm yourself. You can't do everything at once," David reminded her gently. Linda sighed. "I know, but this is my chance to really show what I can do. I want people to remember my food." As she worked tirelessly to prepare, she began to feel the pressure. She spent long hours in the kitchen, testing recipes and tweaking flavors. But one day, as she mixed a new batch of her famous mac and cheese, she accidentally spilled an entire container of salt into the pot. "Oh no, not again," she exclaimed, throwing her hands up in frustration. David walked in just in time to see her disappointment. "What happened?" he asked, concerned. "I ruined the mac and cheese. It's too salty. I can't afford to make mistakes like this," she said, her voice rising in panic. "Hey, it's okay. Mistakes happen to everyone. Let's figure this out together," he said, trying to calm her down. Linda took a deep breath. "You're right. I just need to start over." With David's help, she quickly cleaned up the mess and began again. They laughed as they worked, making the process a little lighter despite the pressure. As the catering day approached, Linda faced another challenge. The night before the event, she received a message from Emily. "I just heard that the event is going to be much bigger than we thought. They've invited local media to cover it," Emily wrote. Linda's heart raced. "What? I'm not ready for this," she muttered to herself. "Linda, you can do this. You've already impressed so many people. Just stick to your plan," David encouraged, sensing her anxiety. "I know, but what if I forget something, or if people don't like the food?" Linda worried aloud. Just focus on what you love about cooking. Remember why you started this journey. You want to share your family recipes and create a sense of community, David reminded her. The next day arrived, and Linda woke up early to finalize her dishes. The sun was shining brightly, filling her small kitchen with warm light. Despite the chaos, she felt a sense of purpose. She prepared each dish carefully, from her creamy macaroni and cheese to her delicious barbecue pulled pork. Finally, it was time to pack everything up. With David's help, they loaded the car with the food and decorations. "Let's do this," he said, flashing her a confident smile. When they arrived at the event venue, the atmosphere was buzzing with excitement. Colorful banners adorned the entrance, and groups of people mingled and chatted. Linda felt a rush of nervous energy as she set up her booth. As guests began to arrive, Linda stood behind her table, welcoming everyone with a smile. She felt a little shaky but reminded herself of David's words. "Just share your passion," she thought. Emily was there, snapping photos and chatting with guests. She introduced Linda to some of the media personnel who had come to cover the event. Linda felt a mix of pride and anxiety as they approached her table. "Hi, I'm Sam, a food blogger," one young man said, extending his hand. "I've heard great things about your dishes." "Thank you. I hope you enjoy them," Linda replied, her voice steady despite the nerves. As the guests began to taste her food, the reactions were overwhelmingly positive. Laughter and compliments filled the air, and Linda felt her heart swell with happiness. She watched as people gathered around her table, enjoying her creations. "This macaroni and cheese is the best I've ever had," one woman exclaimed, and Linda's smile grew even wider. Just then, she spotted a familiar face in the crowd, Mr. Thompson, an elderly man from her neighborhood. He had always been kind to her and her family when they were struggling. Seeing him brought back memories of her childhood. "Mr. Thompson," she called out, waving excitedly. He approached her table, a warm smile on his face. "Linda, my dear, I'm so proud of you. Your food smells amazing." "Thank you. It means a lot to me to see you here," she said, her heart warming. As the event continued, Linda noticed more media personnel coming to her booth. They asked questions about her story and her dishes, taking notes and snapping pictures. She felt a surge of confidence with each interaction. After a few hours, Emily approached her, a gleam of excitement in her eyes. "Linda, you're a hit. Everyone loves your food. You've got to see this." Linda's heart raced as she followed Emily to the crowd. People were talking about her catering business, sharing their experiences on social media, and even asking about future events. It was overwhelming but exhilarating. As the day came to a close, Linda felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had faced her fears, shared her passion, and connected with her community in a way she never imagined. "Thank you for believing in me, David," she said as they packed up their things. "I always knew you could do this, Linda. This is just the beginning," he replied, a proud smile on his face. Driving home, Linda reflected on the day. She realized that challenges were a part of her journey, but with support and determination, she could overcome them. This was her chance to make a difference in the lives of others through her food, and she couldn't wait to see where this journey would take her next. A new opportunity. The days after the community event flew by for Linda. The buzz from her successful catering job continued to grow, and she felt a surge of motivation. With each passing day, more people reached out to her, excited about her food and eager to learn about her catering services. It was a dream come true, but with it came new challenges. One sunny afternoon, Linda was busy at her kitchen table, sorting through inquiries and planning her next events. Just as she was starting to feel overwhelmed, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Emily. "Hey Linda. Great news. A popular local food festival is happening next month, and they're looking for new vendors. I think you should apply." The message read. Linda's heart raced. A food festival. That sounded like an amazing opportunity, but doubt crept in. Do I have enough experience? What if I can't handle it? she thought. David walked in, noticing the worry on her face. "What's wrong?" he asked, sitting next to her. "Emily wants me to apply for a food festival. It sounds great, but I don't know if I'm ready for something that big," she confessed, biting her lip. "Linda, look how far you've come. You handled the community event like a pro. This could be your chance to reach even more people," David encouraged her. "I know, but what if I mess up? What if no one likes my food?" she worried. "Remember, you've got to believe in yourself. Just think about all the people who loved your food at the last event. You can do this," he reassured her. Taking the deep breath, Linda decided to give it a shot. She opened her laptop and filled out the application. With David's support, she chose her best dishes to showcase: her creamy macaroni and cheese, barbecue pulled pork, and a new dessert she had been working on, a chocolate chip cookie pie. Once she hit the submit button, a wave of relief washed over her. "I did it. I applied," she exclaimed, her excitement bubbling over. David smiled proudly. "I knew you could do it. Now let's start planning." The next few weeks were filled with preparation and excitement. Linda worked tirelessly, developing her recipes and perfecting her presentation. She spent late nights in the kitchen, testing her cookie pie, and making sure it was just right. As the festival day approached, Linda felt a mix of excitement and nerves. She wanted to make a great impression, and the thought of being surrounded by other talented vendors both thrilled and intimidated her. Finally, the day of the festival arrived. Linda woke up early, her stomach fluttering with anticipation. She and David loaded the car with all her supplies and food, making sure they had everything they needed. When they arrived at the festival grounds, the atmosphere was electric. Colorful tents lined the area, and the smell of delicious food filled the air. Linda set up her booth, arranging her dishes with care, making everything look inviting. As the festival opened, people began to flow in. Linda felt her heart racing as she watched families, friends, and food lovers wander from booth to booth. She greeted everyone with a smile, eager to share her creations. "Welcome. Please try my macaroni and cheese," she called out, handing out samples. To her delight, people began to gather around her booth. They tasted her food and responded with enthusiastic smiles and compliments. "This is the best mac and cheese I've ever had," one man said, his eyes lighting up. Linda beamed with pride. It was moments like these that made all her hard work worthwhile. As the festival continued, Linda found herself interacting with many different people. Food bloggers, families, and even a local chef stopped by her booth. Each conversation filled her with encouragement and confidence. After a few hours, she noticed a small crowd gathering at her booth. They were chatting, laughing, and enjoying her food. Emily appeared, her eyes shining with excitement. "Linda, look at this. Everyone is raving about your dishes," Emily exclaimed, snapping pictures of the happy guests enjoying their food. Linda couldn't believe her eyes. She had created a little hub of joy, where people gathered not just to eat but to share stories and laughter. Just when Linda thought the day couldn't get any better, a well-known local food critic approached her booth. He had heard about her food from Emily and wanted to try her dishes. "Hi there. I'm Alex, a food critic for the local magazine. I've heard great things about you," he said, extending his hand. Linda's heart skipped a beat. "Oh, wow. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoy my food," she said, trying to keep her nerves at bay. Alex tasted her macaroni and cheese, taking his time to savor each bite. After a moment, he nodded appreciatively. "This is fantastic. The flavor is spot on, and the texture is perfect." Linda felt her cheeks flush with pride. "Thank you. That means so much coming from you." As the festival began to wind down, Linda was approached by more people, each wanting to share their appreciation for her food. She felt a sense of belonging and excitement as she realized her hard work was paying off. Later that day, when the festival was coming to a close, the organizers announced the winner of the Best New Vendor Award. Linda held her breath, her heart pounding in her chest. And the winner is Linda for her delicious comfort food, the announcer declared. Linda couldn't believe her ears. She jumped up, tears of joy streaming down her face. David rushed to her side, wrapping his arms around her. "You did it, Linda. I'm so proud of you," he shouted. As she accepted the award, the crowd cheered and clapped, and Linda felt a sense of accomplishment wash over her. This was just the beginning of her journey, and she knew she had the support and love to keep moving forward. In that moment, Linda realized that her dreams were within reach, and she couldn't wait to see where this path would lead her next. New beginning. The excitement from the food festival lingered in the air long after it had ended. Linda couldn't stop smiling as she sat in her kitchen, the best new vendor trophy gleaming proudly on the shelf. It was a reminder of her hard work, perseverance, and the love and support from those around her. That evening, David joined her in the kitchen. "I still can't believe how amazing the festival was. You were incredible," he said, a wide grin on his face. "Thanks to you. I couldn't have done it without your help," Linda replied, her heart full of gratitude. "I still feel like I'm dreaming." Over the next few days, the excitement continued. Linda's phone buzzed non-stop with messages from people wanting to hire her for events and parties. She even received a call from a local restaurant asking if she would be interested in collaborating with them. As she sat down with David to discuss her future, a mix of joy and nervousness filled her. "This is all happening so fast. What if I can't keep up?" she confessed. "Just take it one step at a time, Linda. You've got the talent, and now you have the recognition. Embrace it," David encouraged. Linda decided to take a leap of faith. She reached out to the restaurant and agreed to a meeting. She wanted to explore what opportunities lay ahead. A few days later, she walked into the restaurant, her heart racing with anticipation. The place was busy, filled with the sounds of sizzling pans and happy diners. The owner, a friendly woman named Maria, welcomed Linda with a warm smile. "Thank you for coming, Linda. I've heard amazing things about your food," Maria said, leading Linda to a cozy corner table. Linda felt a rush of confidence. "Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I believe we could create something special together." Maria explained her vision for the restaurant and how she wanted to feature local vendors. "I think your comfort food would be a perfect addition to our menu. People are looking for heartwarming dishes, and your cooking has a personal touch," she said. Linda listened intently as Maria laid out her ideas. They discussed incorporating some of Linda's signature dishes, like the macaroni and cheese and barbecue pulled pork. As they talked, Linda could see the possibilities unfold before her eyes. "This sounds incredible. I'd love to be a part of it," Linda replied, her excitement bubbling over. After a productive meeting, they agreed to start with a trial run, featuring Linda's dishes as specials on the menu. "Let's see how the customers respond. I have no doubt they'll love it," Maria said, her enthusiasm infectious. When Linda returned home, she couldn't contain her joy. "David, you won't believe it. I'm going to be featured at the restaurant. They want my food on their menu," she exclaimed, jumping with excitement. David's eyes lit up. "That's amazing. I knew this was just the beginning for you." As the weeks went by, Linda worked hard to prepare for the restaurant launch. She spent hours in the kitchen, fine-tuning her recipes and testing new ones. With each dish she created, her passion grew stronger. The day of the launch arrived, and Linda felt a mixture of nerves and excitement. The restaurant was buzzing with energy, and customers were eager to try the new menu items. When the first plate of Linda's macaroni and cheese was served, she watched anxiously from the kitchen. Moments later, she noticed a group of diners laughing and enjoying their meal. Their smiles filled her with hope. As the night went on, customers returned to the kitchen, sharing their appreciation. "This is the best comfort food we've ever had," one woman exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. Linda's heart swelled with happiness. It felt incredible to share her love for cooking with so many people. As the evening continued, the restaurant was filled with compliments about her food. At the end of the night, Maria approached Linda with a broad smile. "You did it. People are raving about your dishes. We're going to keep featuring your food," she said, her excitement contagious. Linda couldn't believe her ears. "Thank you so much. This means the world to me." After the launch, Linda's catering business continued to grow. She received inquiries for events, parties, and even weddings. With each new opportunity, she felt more confident in her abilities. One day, while organizing her catering calendar, she received an unexpected message from a local news station. They'd wanted to do a feature on her success story, highlighting her journey from struggling to thriving in the food industry. Linda's heart raced. This was another chance to share her passion with an even larger audience. "David, you won't believe it. They want to do a story about me," she shouted, hardly able to contain her excitement. "That's incredible. You deserve it, Linda. You've worked so hard for this," he replied, beaming with pride. When the day of the interview arrived, Linda felt a mix of excitement and nerves. She wanted to tell her story authentically, sharing her struggles and triumphs. As she sat down with the reporter, she spoke from the heart, recounting her journey. "I never thought I'd be here, sharing my food with so many people. Cooking is my passion, and I'm grateful for every opportunity that comes my way," Linda said, her eyes shining with determination. The feature aired a few days later, and the response was overwhelming. People reached out to Linda, eager to support her and try her food. With each new opportunity, Linda felt her dreams becoming a reality. She knew this was just the beginning of her journey. She was ready to embrace the future, armed with her passion, her love for cooking, and the support of those who believed in her. As she looked at her reflection in the mirror, she saw a woman who had transformed her life through hard work and kindness. Linda was not just a caterer. She was a force of positivity, ready to inspire others with her story. And so, with her heart full of hope and determination, Linda stepped into a bright future, excited to see where her culinary journey would take her next.